I'm proud and excited to announce that the new book, Transform Your Body, Transform Your Life, is now available. I've put the links to grab your copy from Amazon worldwide in the show notes, and I can't wait to see what you think. As a thank you for listening to the podcast, email podcast@rntfitness.com with your receipt, and we'll send you the free ebook version to start reading immediately. If you like a sneak peek of what's inside, you can download the first chapter at rntfitness.com/book. Also, you've heard me talking about the power of journaling for a long time, so I'm happy to announce we've now got customized RNT journals in store. There's a mix of prompts and freestyle writing, which you can take a glimpse of on rntfitness.com/journal. Just a quick one before we get into this episode. If you're in the UK and you use supplements, I'd highly recommend checking out Reflex Nutrition, where they're giving up to 40% on all their range if you use the code PTRNT at checkout. I've been using Reflex for nearly a decade, with their microwave being one of my favorite whey proteins. It's grass-fed, hormone-free, and digests so well compared to most on the market. Check out their full supplement range, including all your transformation basics and plant-based alternatives on reflexnutrition.com and use the code PTRNT at checkout for up to 40% off. Today's episode is taken from a conversation with a good friend of mine, Suraj Sodha, where we spoke at his event, Entrepreneur Jam, all about the parallels between transforming your body and building your business. This was a no-holds-barred conversation with Suraj, where we dug into his story, shared his insights together, and I explained why everything I've learned about business has come from bodybuilding. To watch the footage from the event, check out the YouTube video in the show notes below.
Thank you. The way this works, you've been to these meetups before, but the way this works is you and I will have this conversation and we'll keep referring to the audience, but largely this is a conversation between you and I.
Sure.
So we can go deep, we can go throw a curveball, you can ask me questions, I'll ask you questions, and let's see where this goes. So before we start, tell the audience a little bit about yourself, just for those of these guys who don't know you. You run an online body transformation business. Give us just a brief outline of how you ended up doing that and what it's all about.
Sure. So the brief story is, as a 16-year-old kid, I was a skinny fat teenager who was insecure about how I looked, had body confidence issues, and I was on a path to study law at university and become a lawyer. Then I went to
Sounds really familiar.
Yeah, exactly what you did, right? Then I headed into the gym with a friend of mine, caught the bug big time, and I found myself in all my spare time just reading all about health and fitness to the point where I decided to make a switch and withdraw my personal statement and study sports science instead. And then from here, my journey kind of started in health and fitness. I started helping people for free at university. And then after university, I started working in the city as a personal trainer, working with the bankers and lawyers in Moorgate.
Like a typical on the gym floor.
On the gym floor, counting the reps, doing the 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. shift as the unsociable hours as a PT. Then I realized it wasn't something that was sustainable. So I started transitioning into the online world. And then 2 years ago, from next month, we launched RNT Fitness, which is an online body transformation company that specializes in helping regular, busy people get into the shape of their lives.
Amazing. And this meetup, I've called it How My PT Saved My Business and My Life. And that sounds really dramatic, right? But it's very, we'll break that down, but it's very true. And I'm really grateful for the journey that I've been on with you. It's been a super challenging 18 months. I've been working with Akash for 18 months. By the way, I said in the description of this meetup that this is going to be probably the most open, uncut, vulnerable interview I've ever given in my 11 years of entrepreneurship. I'm opening up, and I've told Akash as well, no holds barred. We're going to open up because if my journey, my story, I know for a fact can relate to people in this room, and if you can benefit from it, then again, I feel duty bound to share the shit side of life as well, not just the Instagram glamorous. Look at me traveling everywhere. Look how fun life is. Look how much money I've got. Look how much fun this is and all this. I think it's really important to show the other side of it as well. That it's not all giggles.
And you know, you say that it's a dramatic title, but one thing that always strikes me, and I'm going to go straight in for it, is New Year's Eve of 2017. You emailed me coming up about 5 p.m., 6 p.m, just before the clock was about to turn to midnight, and you must have sent me an email saying, "Thank you so much, Akash. You've literally stopped myself from putting it all away and throwing it all away." And going on this journey, as this physical journey, was what enabled you to essentially stop yourself from ending it.
Yeah.
And that's why something I always say is the physical is the vehicle, and it's because I truly believe it in that if you can master your physical being and you can create that inward focus in yourself, it enable you to create confidence to master anything in your life and push forward from the low points that someone like yourself was feeling.
Yeah.
Can you explain like where you came from in that journey and where it all started from?
So to give that context, and I fully agree with that, I really want to touch on that a lot, that how all of this is not just about the physical. Yeah, sure, you have the physical body transformation, but the real change is the mental transformation, and that translates into a business transformation, making more money, becoming more popular, whatever it is. But yeah, so my journey to how I started working with Akash starts about 2 years ago. 2 years ago, almost, 2 years ago, Easter 2017 is when I'll take you back to. And you know when life is just good, when you're living your best life, everything's great. In my case, I was happily married to my best friend. We were the best of buddies. We traveled the world together. We were doing the typical, it wasn't typical because I ran my own business very successfully, making loads of money. We were able to travel, go on holiday 6-7 times a year, do major holidays, do weekends away, Europe, we had a beautiful home, and I was living my best life, and things were great. I had everything I desired materially. I thought I had everything I desired emotionally. I was a bit of a fatty, but at the time I didn't know it, right? Especially how when I look back at these pictures and think, oh my God. But I was living my best life, and it was good. It was really, really fun. We had this whole, glamorous wedding, and our family and our friends, and it was amazing. And when things are just going perfect, life has this, this way of just giving you a little slap around the face and saying, stay in your lane, mate. Come back down to earth. And that's what happened. And a very long story short, a series of events happened in my life or in our lives that caused the breakdown of my marriage in that year. And eventually we divorced and we separated. I felt like I was in free fall. My business was making 6 figures with my eyes shut. I was making money whilst I slept. We were booking holidays left, right, and centre. We were planning for the future. Like you do as a relatively newlywed couple, you plan 5-10 years into the future. This is what I want to do with my life. This is how many babies we're going to have. This is where we're going to live. This is where we're going to go on holiday. This is all the stuff that we're going to achieve. And all of a sudden, as a guy, that gets taken away from you. It sent me into free fall. My business started suffering. My health started suffering. I was diagnosed with high cholesterol, anxiety. I have a history of type 2 diabetes in my family, heart attacks, strokes. So I was on this very clear path of, nasty lifestyle, health-wise. And all of this stuff that started happening in my life amplified all of that. And that's when I found Akash, or I started seeing more of your stuff online. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. These regular-looking guys and girls who are going through these insane body transformations, And I, at the time, was seeing a counselor for my mental health stuff because of the breakdown of my marriage, which really affected me, affected my business. I ended up selling my business for pennies compared to what it was worth because I thought it was the right thing to do. And you know when you're just not in the right place, you're not making the right decisions, your decisions are being made for you. So as a guy, I felt so out of control as well that my decisions about my life are being made for me. Everything was falling apart. This beautiful setup that I had all of a sudden completely crumbled. And my counselor said to me, Suraj, we're very close to rock bottom, and bad things happen at rock bottom because you get to a place where you have nothing to lose. And you do, but you feel like you have nothing to lose. Your family, you feel like no one's going to care if you're not around anymore. You feel like, what's the point? Nothing's going right anymore. And when these losses start stacking up, it's the same effect as momentum. I was speaking to someone before that momentum breeds momentum. But when you go through setback after setback after setback, they also sort of stack and they amplify each other even more. So my counselor said to me, Suraj, you urgently need to find something to focus on. And she said to me, you're going to learn a new language. So I'm going back, I said, the last time I learned a language was GCSE French, and I hated it. So I was like, that sounds like a lame way of fixing myself. Focus on my work. You know when you just lose the passion for work, and it becomes a job, and it becomes, even though you run your own business, and you've built this brand, this baby, nothing matters because you've lost your purpose in life. It doesn't matter. I couldn't care less for my clients, couldn't care less for my customers, my business, my money, whatever. Like people used to leave, before when a customer used to want to leave, I was like, trying to figure out what I could do better. Now if they want to leave, all right, cancel your payments. I don't care. Couldn't care less. Couldn't focus on my work. Couldn't learn a language. It just couldn't be asked. And she said, all right, well, start going to the gym. I was like, I've never really stepped foot in a gym before. I've never trained. I'll start jogging. So I started jogging, and I hated that as well. I borrowed someone's dog. There was there's a website called borrowmydoggy.com. And you sign up, and people who can't take their dogs for a walk sign up to it. And I used to live in northwest London, a place called Stanmore, and there was this lady who signed up to it who had this cute little puppy, and she couldn't take this dog for a walk. And that became my excuse to get out and go jogging or go walking or do something active, because my counselor said, you need to focus on something. And that was fun and all the rest of it. But then I started seeing more of your stuff, and I reached out to you. I remember it was July of that year when I was, safe to say, at rock bottom. Nothing mattered anymore. I couldn't give a shit about work or life or anything at all. So begrudgingly, hi Akash, I want a six-pack, help me, whatever. And that's how it started for me. But that's what I thought I needed to focus on. That my focus was purely on my health. On my physical health. And then we had a call. I remember you were in a coffee shop somewhere in London, and we videoed. And I thought you were arrogant. I thought you were cocky. I thought you were who is this guy? Who do you think he is? What the hell? Because I said, great. So can we have a call or have a meeting? And you said, no. Or if you want a meeting, then it's chargeable.
Oh, yeah.
What? Yeah. This guy wants business. He's charging me for a meeting. So straight away, I was like, this guy hasn't got a clue about running a business or customer service. But begrudgingly, I was like, I've been told I need to focus on something, so let's just do this call. Had the call. I was quite positive about it, I remember. And then it wasn't until October-ish, I think, that I actually signed up. But I've learned over the last 18 months of us working together that yes, my body's changed. I've had this massive, insane body transformation, but it hasn't been about the physical at all. It's been, I would say, 95% now in hindsight I can see about the mental transformation, the mental recovery from a traumatic episode in my life, which nearly finished everything off. Like finished business, finished life, finished just desire to live, that passion for life. Got brought back through this vehicle of lifting weights, eating right, and all the principles that you talk about. And there's a lot of R&T members here, but you talk about the whole, ruthless consistency, decision fatigue, all of these concepts we're going to touch on, which I then found were completely transferable to business as well. And that then transformed my business. So since then, I was able to double my business again, and everything's back on track. We've launched new stuff. We've launched this event here. So there's so much more going on. And I've just been talking, and it's almost like a therapy session. But tell me about that. Let's talk about the parallels between a physical transformation and how it's not really about the physical.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I was going to say is what you've experienced there is...
I just wanted to give everyone context. Rather than,
the all-encompassing nature of a physical transformation. Because what you've done there is when you've tried to embark on the journey of transforming your body, you've needed to put in so many new habits, systems and strategies into your life, and it's so consuming that you've got no choice but to focus on yourself. And for once, you have to give yourself a chance and give yourself permission to structure in time in the day to purely focus on yourself.
Yeah.
And this is why it helps so many people way beyond just the physical, because it gives them an outlet and it provides a void where people can go to the gym and they can take an hour out of their day and focus just on themselves. And it sounds so simple, but it's something that in the increasingly online world we live in, it's so hard to do.
Yeah.
And that's why someone like yourself has experienced so many good benefits from just the physical transformation, because you've now decided to do something better for yourself.
Yeah.
And you've instilled positive habits, which have now carried over all across life.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I read somewhere the other day that that hour in the gym, 2 hours in the gym, however long you're spending, you're forcing yourself to focus on yourself. Yeah, it might hurt like hell. Yeah. You might hate your trainer during that time. You might think, what am I doing? Everything hurts. But you're forcing that focus on yourself.
There's a void moment I always talk about in the gym. And if anyone, how many of you train hard or train in the gym? Okay, so quite a significant amount of you. And how many of you really push yourselves in the gym? So quite a few of you.
Almost puked last.
Good, but I can assure you that those sets or those moments in the gym when you push yourself so hard and you're about to do something that's really heavy and really scary. There's a point just before that starts that your mind goes blank, right? And you enter what I call the void moment. And it's that void moment that I think so many people experience all the benefits from, because it's at that moment everything goes blank and you're just there and you're just being. And a lot of the meditative benefits that people talk about from training, and that's where it's come from. And you hear of people that say they meditate and they do all these different things, but for me and for a lot of other people, that moment in the gym is exactly it. And I think that's where a lot of the benefits come from. And it's why it's such a good stress relief and anchor in so many people's days.
People say to me, how can you go to the gym so much? Or how are you, you're still doing it in the gym and you're still so focused on it. It's because actually it gives all of these benefits. I don't do yoga or meditation or anything like that, but I get the same benefits from going to the gym and lifting weights, and I guess the chemical reactions that causes in our bodies flushes out some of those bad feelings, flushes out the crappy day you've had or the night you've had or whatever, and that really single ruthless focus on lifting that barbell or dumbbell or pushing that weight or whatever it is, it does transport you into a whole new space.
Yeah.
How does that translate, or how does that apply in business as well?
Yeah, the reason why it applies to business is because it's not only just the training bit. You've now got, if you apply the diet and you apply things like cardio and steps and all the other things that a body transformation encompasses, now you've got to create so much structure in your day and so many positive habits that when you have this structure, you create freedom to then explore and push forward in your business. And if you don't have structure in your day, there's no way you can push your business forward. And it's those habits that you create through this body transformation that then teaches you how to be a better person in business.
You've obviously trained personally, as well as your team at R&T, hundreds and hundreds of regular people with regular bodies who go on to become shredded, just lean, the best shape of their lives. I'm a great example of that. What are some of the true reasons people go down this transformation journey rather than, paying someone 30 quid a session in the gym to watch them run for half an hour? Like what? Because I guess for me, it started off, maybe I didn't tell you this because you were just a random guy, but it's like, okay, I did it because just to get fit. I didn't know myself. I was doing it for all the other all-encompassing benefits, the mental health benefits, the mindset benefits, the confidence, self-esteem, self-worth, all of these things that I thought, whatever, something else will deal with that. What have you found of some of the real reasons people actually end up going down this journey?
That's a good question. I mean, the most common is the self-confidence. That's a massive one. People want to feel more confident in themselves and allow that confidence to transpire into other areas. Another one is, again, very similar to yourself, is they've had a bad breakup or they've gone through something very traumatic mentally and they need something to then focus inside on. Other ones are in the slightly older age groups is they want to see their children walk down the aisle. And as cheesy as that might sound, it's very true in that there's growing number of health problems that people are more aware of, and that's another big one. And then there's things like anxiety and depression, and using exercise and creating more structure in your day can help with these, can help with creating symptomatic relief here. So there's a number of mental health issues that typically transpire in someone going to the gym or embarking on a transformation journey. And this comes back to when I talk about, knowing your why, but more importantly, knowing the why behind your why. Like, what is the real reason behind? Yeah. It's very rarely just to get a six-pack or to look good on the beach. There's a reason that's driving you way more than just what's on the surface level.
I guess in marketing, everyone who's been to a marketing seminar or business seminar will know that when you're in business, you're trying to solve a problem for your customers, for your clients, and you're not really selling the product or the service. You're selling a byproduct of it, or you're selling the end result of it. And I think everything you listed before, seeing my kids walk down the aisle, or being able to walk my daughter down the aisle because I'm in my 50s and I've got diabetes and I've got a history of this in my family, or being able to bounce back from a breakup, or from being bullied at school and not being picked on anymore. That's what you sell, or the solution to those. It's not training. It's not personal training. That's the vehicle. This is the
vehicle that takes it, that allows it to happen.
But to recognize that is really rare. I think that's testament to you and to R&T as well. Most businesses don't recognize what they're really selling. Even in my main business, we do design and web and consulting, all this sort of stuff. I fall into that same trap as well. Yeah, I'll sell you web design or graphic design. That's not really what I'm selling you. A good business will know what that gives you, so the why behind it.
Well, it's what they say is in businesses, you sell them what they want and you give them what they need.
Yeah.
And what you want is the confidence and the ability to make improvements in other areas of your life. And what you need is just training, diet, structure in your day. Yeah. That's what we give them. But what they really want is that, and that's what we sell them.
One thing the word inspire is thrown around so much, but one thing I was inspired by you massively, and I really love this philosophy of yours. When we spoke, and I said, when I first thought you were a bit of an arrogant twat.
I've never been told that.
Well, first time for everything, mate. I said to myself, I always want to like interview you to see why I should give you my money every month to train me, when I could just give some next company or next guy or whatever, or I can't just download P90X or something like that, or Insanity. And you said something that was the clincher for me. You said, because my ambition was never to look like that, by the way. Like I saw your extreme bodybuilding, your competing photos like that, and I remember saying to myself, okay, but do I need a trainer who is that extreme and can take his body to that level? I don't want to become a bodybuilder. I don't want to become that. I just want to be toned, healthy, and in the best shape of my life. And you said to me, that's fine. I've taken myself to the extreme so that I can take my clients anywhere along that journey. Whether you want to go extreme level and get to sort of that level of being ripped and shredded, or anywhere along that spectrum, I've been there now. I thought, as a coach, I tell everyone, if you're going to get a coach, a business coach, a life coach, or whatever coach, go with someone, a finance coach, anyone, someone who's been there and done it themselves before. And I think that's really important. And that was, for me, you didn't have to say anything else after that. Like, you had me at that.
Yeah.
I didn't care that.
I should use that more often then. I should use that more often.
And because that was really important for me. And it was a value for me that if I'm getting a coach, I want them to have been through the same struggle as I have, or not necessarily struggle, but I want them to have gone from 0 to 100 themselves, not just say that they know how to get me there unless they've been there themselves, right? Yeah. So tell me a little bit about how you have made that the culture of your business now, because that's been your life, but you now instill that with your clients. How do you do that?
The extreme philosophy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great point, and I tell all coaches, if they want to be better coaches, the first thing they need to do is get themselves into incredible shape, and not because it makes not because their clients want to get to that, but it's because you can then empathize along every stage of the journey. If we take yourself as an example, you're now on a photo shoot journey, and you probably never thought you're going on this photo shoot journey where you're in probably one of the leanest guys I've seen for a while, but I wouldn't be able to take you here if I hadn't done it myself.
Yeah.
And that's why it was so critical for me to do this, because whether you wanted to get that lean or whether you just wanted to be so lean that most people would think you're in amazing shape, I had to have gone there myself. And you're going through we've been talking a lot recently about the mind games that you're feeling and the different mindset shifts and the devil on your shoulder telling you need to eat more food and you need to rest more. But because I know these mind games, I can coach you through that, and I can say to you, no, this is just the dip that you're going through. This is just the phase where you just have to keep grinding along to see the results later. And it's these lessons that I learned through bodybuilding that have helped me in my business more than anything. There's two things from bodybuilding that I've learned from business. And the first one is that ruthless consistency that I always talk about. And that's just, being there all the time. Like, for example, I always turn up every morning at 7 a.m. on my social media. I'm there. I release a new article every Monday, a new podcast every Thursday. It's just consistency there. And the second thing is learning to embrace and lean into the dip. And it's a term coined by Seth Godin, a great marketer, if any of you know, and I'd highly recommend reading it. But what he taught in that, which is very applicable in bodybuilding, but just in business, is that there's going to be a lot of times where you're putting a lot of steps forward, but you don't see any immediate results. And it really teaches you to learn delayed gratification, as opposed to the instant gratification that we're always so accustomed to.
Yeah.
And it's that journey that you go through when you're trying to get shredded, which is the extreme, that then carries over to how you coach your clients and ultimately how you run your business.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And you've called me out on what you've said it really politely. The other day you said, you've had your hissy fit now, right? and I like that though, because you call me out on it, and with your other clients as well, because I know, because they all the other clients talk amongst themselves as well. And when we say, oh yeah, Akash is going to be on you, or Nathan's going to be on you, or whatever, the fact that you've been there yourself, you know what's coming, and can almost manage my emotions in a way in the context of training.
Yeah.
So, and we've seen that time and time again, especially in the last few weeks. Just for reference, Akash said your photo shoot ready. What that means is that Akash has got this thing, one of your USPs that I think attracts so many people to RNT and to your social media is your before and after photos. I guess it's the holy grail of any fitness business is the before and after. But Akash does it in such an elegant way where it's a full-scale professional photo shoot in the gym, and then that's the case study then published on his blog, and it's plastered all over social media. So mine's in 3 weeks, and it's an 18-month journey. And actually it's taken a lot longer than most people because I was traveling a lot last year, and that was my, again, almost therapy kind of thing, was focus on myself. I travel. I think I went on 13 holidays last year, as you do. But it was for me from a place of first trying to escape from everything. How do you get away from the shit in your life? You book a plane ticket. Go somewhere really far away. I did that 13 times in 12 months.
Yeah.
Then I found that actually I was really in a cheesy way, just trying to sort of find myself rather than find anything external. But my point was that on moments of doubt, where you go into that dip, it's really, really difficult for, I guess, all clients like me who are here as well, who don't know what's coming. So that's really insightful. You talked a bit about the processes, the systems of achieving something like this. Tell us a bit more about what do you actually prescribe clients? When someone comes to you and says, I want to get into shape, you figure out what they're looking for, what their goals are. Typically, what's the journey? What does that journey look like? Because I know, give it to us in the context of personal training, but listen to it in the context of any area of your life, because actually the parallels in business, in your relationship, in anything else are so similar. But give it to us, give us the typical journey that you take someone on.
Sure. So on this,
I need to talk about that you've got some phases or like a five stages,
five phases.
Steps. Talk us through this.
Okay, so when a new client comes on board, the first thing we do is, we prescribe them with a plan, which is going to cover weight training, four key things. So weight training, a step target, diet plan, and a water target. And then once they do this, they go through the first phase, which we call cleaning the palate. But essentially all that means is regaining control of your day. And it happens through three key things. And that's creating non-negotiables in your day, which is like pre-booked appointments in your diary at the start of every week, which are appointments with yourself that are on repeat every week. Creating non-negotiables, that's the first thing. The second thing is limiting decision fatigue. And this is something I talk about a lot, where you want to eliminate as many menial tasks in your day as possible. All the non-creative areas, so it's things like what are you having for breakfast? Am I having eggs or am I having porridge? Or what am I having for dinner? Is it chicken or turkey? You just want to cut all that out and just keep things very simple. So that's the second one, decision fatigue. And then the third one would be connecting with your why and really exploring that in this initial phase. Once you've established and regained control of your day, then we go into something called the process phase, which is just about ticking the boxes every day. And throughout this phase, there's essentially 4 stages you go through. You go through you have the initial blast, and then you have a motivation dip, which is when you start feeling demotivated by everything. You're not seeing the results that you thought you would. Then you come out of that little slump. You go into overdrive, and you pick up momentum. As you mentioned earlier, you gather momentum, and it's called the gathered momentum stage.
Hey, just pause you there. This sort of roller coaster, we can relate to it in the context of business as well. It's the same thing. It's exactly the same thing, right?
So this cleaning the palate phase is all like, when you're in the startup phase, everything's exciting. You've got this new lifestyle that you're living. Everything's on the up. Then you go through the dip. You feel demotivated when things are
all of a sudden you're not rich overnight.
Yeah, you're not rich overnight, so you have the motivation dip. Then you gather momentum. You might have a little break. And then again, you go through what I call the precision dip, which is when you get complacent. And I called you out on this recently as well. Like, you got complacent on, you were a bit ahead of yourself, so you didn't start weighing things. You started eyeballing different foods. But in the context of business, it's exactly the same. You start getting complacent ahead of yourself. And then after that, what I've coined is like the Vaghela grind, but it's just, all it really means is when I essentially throw the kitchen sink and you just go for it and you just grind and that would be the equivalent of...
You call it loads of things. You call it pulling the pin.
Dropping the hammer. There's all sorts of phrases I use.
You send me all these things. I have no idea what they mean half the time. I'm like, I'm dropping the pin this week. Cool.
But in the context of business, that would be the 18-hour day phase. When you're doing a launch or you're doing a big phase, that'd be the same thing there. Then you reach your checkpoint, which is for you is your photo shoot, and that's the high point when you're at the top of the mountain. You're seeing everything's great.
So tell us your Lord of the Rings analogy.
My Lord of the Rings analogy. So when you reach the checkpoint is
before you stop. The next bit is something that I get asked a lot right now as I come to the end of this first phase of transformation, photo shoot, get ripped. What's next?
Yeah.
To explain that, because I think that's really important.
Before that, how many of you here run your own business? So quite a lot of you. When I'm explaining this, just try and draw the parallels with what you do as well, because I think it'll really help.
Yeah.
And what we're going to talk about now is what I call the consolidation phase. And I'll use the analogy that he asked me to, the Lord of the Rings. How many of you seen Lord of the Rings here? Okay, so a lot of you. So this is the same analogy would apply where, Frodo and Sam have just climbed Mount Doom. They've wrestled Gollum to get the ring back, and then they drop the ring in. Okay, so now Mount Doom's Sauron's destroyed, and it's all rosy. It's meant to be mission accomplished. But now they're stranded on Mount Doom, and the mountain exploded, and they're on a lava rock in the middle of all the lava flowing outside Mount Doom. And now they've got to get home. And the scene's called the end of all things, because that's essentially meant to be the end. Now, when you're at this peak or this summit, if you don't take a safe passage home, and if you don't consolidate and plan for what's to come, and if you don't have a Gandalf who comes with the 3 eagles to pick you up, then you're gonna fail miserably and end up in a worse position than when you started at. And the parallel to a body transformation would be the equivalent of Suraj getting into amazing shape for this photo shoot in 3 weeks' time, and then 3 weeks later looks worse than he did 18 months ago. And all of that hard work that he put in for months and months will just go to waste. And it's so easy for that to happen, which is why...
And is that literally eating on seafood and like, I'll have that? Walking past the Mackie D's and having 20 nuggets, I'll have that. And it's like a yo-yo diet, right? You just go and scoff and eat like a maniac.
Yeah, your thing is, once you've accomplished that checkpoint, the chains are unleashed and there's no immediate goal anymore. So you want to eat whatever's in sight. And I've been there. I made the mistake of, in 2014, booking an all-inclusive holiday straight after my bodybuilding prep. And I came back 7 kilos heavier. And then a couple of weeks later, I put on another 7 kilos. So I was in worse shape than I was before the prep in total. But I've heard of way worse stories than that. I mean, I was talking to someone earlier who said he'd put on 9 kilos over a weekend.
That sounds like a great weekend.
So it could certainly happen. And if you don't go through this consolidation phase, you will end up in that exact same position. And in business, it'd be the same as blowing it up overnight and not spending time to work on the systems that go and support everything underneath.
Yeah, it's almost like having an amazing business launch, amazing event, whatever, and then not following up with anyone or not delivering the product or delivering the service and just failing.
And that's where people start losing quality. That's where customer service issues start coming up.
Yeah.
And that would be the equivalent of a consolidation phase.
Okay. So I'm going on holiday a week after my shoot.
Yeah, that was a bad idea. A couple weeks ago, I was asking someone to do this exercise where I said to them, I want you to block out 30 minutes of your day, turn your Wi-Fi off, and ask yourself why. And then I gave my own example, and it's still very much applicable today. And for me, it was the reason why I train is to feel that void feeling that we spoke about earlier, and to have that stress-free period in my day where I can just focus on myself and not have anything affect me. But the reason why that's important is because it enables me to keep a level head in my business so I can grow it. So my why is very much, at the moment in the phase of life I'm in, is very much business related. So for me, I know that if I train hard in a consistent basis, that's only going to take my business forward. If I don't, I immediately know the difference. And I feel anxious, on edge, and without that structure in my day and without that regular drive in the gym, everything just feels off. So I know that to me, to be on my mental A game, I need to be training. And that's my biggest why right now. But that, again, the why is phasing. That changes in the different seasons you go through in life. So for you, it might be very different. And it might change in 6 months' time. And for me, it could be exactly the same for me. In a year's time, it could be completely different. But for right now, in the phase of life I'm in, that's very much...
Something someone on Instagram asked the other day when I put up a little question box. It was about getting bored easily. So they say, oh, well, you just eat the same thing every day, or you plan your meals a week in advance. Don't you get bored? How do you deal with...
So I have a very simple answer to this.
Go on.
Do you want entertainment or do you want results? It's literally that. And I'm releasing a podcast this week, and the quote card is literally that. Because yes, you might get bored, but it comes back to that decision fatigue thing I was talking about earlier. And
let's go a bit more deeper into decision fatigue.
Yeah.
We talked about it last month actually with Matt about removing nuisance decisions, and it's why some of the highest achievers in business around the world generally wear the same thing every day, eat the same thing every day. Their daily routine is exactly the same. We were talking about the Mark Zuckerbergs, the Steve Jobs. You never saw them out of a blue hoodie and jeans. It was always these certain decisions that they never had to worry themselves about. So let's go a bit deep into decision fatigue, and how can we apply that in our work and in our days?
Sure. So every day we only have a certain amount of willpower, and it's essentially a cup. But we have a certain amount of willpower a day, and for every decision you make, you drain that willpower, and you drain your decision-making ability with every decision you make. So if every morning you wake up and you think, what am I going to wear today? Or what am I going to eat? And you make all these decisions in the morning, you're already zapping that willpower. And you always hear of people saying, I cheat on my diet at night after dinner. And the reason is they come to nighttime and they've zapped all their good quality decisions that they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And the same thing comes to business, in everything in life. If you can automate all the small clunks in your business, then you're free to do and spend time on creative components.
Yeah.
And it's something we've spoken about a lot is, for example, all the inefficiencies we have in our business where I've got to send this email when someone signs up and this person, this thing. And it's exactly the same. Your brain works in exactly the same way. Is if you've got all these inefficiencies, it's going to drain you from what's really important in your day.
Yeah, I guess by the time you come home from a busy day, you've had a rubbish day at work, the last thing you want to do is go to the gym.
Yeah,
it's easy to sack it off and
exactly.
Or put a pizza in the oven or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. But if you automate all of these things and you go on autopilot for a lot of the non-creative components of your day, it makes everything else so much easier.
Yeah.
So it's really about managing your willpower resources and managing your ability to make great decisions throughout the day.
Yeah.
And you want to save that to move all the big rocks as opposed to worrying about the small pieces of sand.
Love it. Big rocks, not small pieces of sand. This is what I mean. He just comes out with all these random metaphors and stuff. I love it. He's going to email me saying, big rocks. And I'll be like, cool, Akash, not knowing what he's talking about. I want to keep this as an open conversation, guys. As you can tell, like I said earlier, it's not scripted. There's no format. We're just sort of flying all over the place right now.
There's 3 levels of accountability. You've got the self-accountability, which is very much the why. And I think one area of accountability which is not spoken about enough is the peer level accountability and getting involved with your creating accountability among your wife, your friends, your family. And it's one of the reasons why the community group that we've created is so important for me, because I know the value of this peer level accountability that it can bring. And if you can really focus on that peer level accountability, continue to connect with yourself, and then of course having a coach you're held accountable to, if you can combine those 3 pillars, then that can make all the difference. But I think for someone like yourself, I think that self one is really important. And I think you're someone who's growing a very successful business, and I can imagine your why being very similar to mine, in that you're in the phase where you're trying to scale it up very quickly, And if the more you can link the benefits between training and health and body composition with the business building, the easier it will become for you to train when you only have 3 hours sleep, like you do.
So, something that a lot of us who train through R&T, or even not through R&T, even through any other program, will feel very strongly about is this. It's almost like this tall poppy syndrome in business and in celebrity life or in sports. This concept of tall poppy syndrome is where, when someone's trying something new or they're an up-and-comer, we support them, we nurture them, we say, hey, good on you, you're going to be really great, I support everything you do. Then they get a bit successful, they start seeing some level of recognition, and suddenly all of that support goes from, we're rooting for you, to, he's changed a bit, who does he think he is? To the point where then you're so successful, they come with a big knife and they chop the tall poppy down. And I think it's an Australian term, tall poppy syndrome. So these poppies, the poppies that you wear, they grow so tall, and when they grow a certain height, someone comes along and chops them down again. Almost like to say, get back down to earth, like, who do you think you are? I've felt that acutely, that journey in my journey, not just through training, but through everything else that's happened in business as well. And that has contributed to me having recently a really low tolerance for people.
Yeah, I've noticed. Yeah.
You noticed. Where I almost like...
No, I was with him and someone had a customer service issue with him and he fired him on the spot. And I was like, wow.
But I'm even in a cafe, like
Yeah.
I'm in like the next... I don't know if it's because I've not really had many carbs recently, but how do you coach people through that? Because that happens in business all the time. Our friends, our family, they support us to a point where sometimes it can be a little bit condescending as well. It's like, oh, you're starting a business, hey, good for you. Like, yeah, good. And then you actually start having some success, or you publish your book that no one thought you would write. Everyone thinks, oh, I'm writing a book? Okay, yeah, cool. You go and write your little book, your little bookie. And then you actually publish it and you launch it and it actually happens and you start getting recognition for it. Your own family, your own friends, people who were supposedly your main support group, not turn on you, but they're almost like, they get that tall poppy syndrome, right?
Yeah.
It happens in training. It happens in the context of training, and a lot of the trainers in this room will relate. The usual, okay, enough training now. Yeah, you're fit enough now. Okay. Enough, you've lost enough weight now. Okay. And then it gets to a point of, you look ill. Like, you look gaunt. And then it starts to actually affect you. Because it's like, oh shit, am I ill? Am I doing this because I've got some mental health problem? Am I doing this because I'm sick? Like, why am I doing this? And no matter how strong we are or how strong we think we are, there's still a chatter that comes from the devil on our shoulder, but also sometimes the devil's around us and sometimes really close to us.
Yeah.
It can be a real challenge. How do you help people cope with that? Or what advice do you have to cope with that when that happens?
So
that's not
the stage after that, though, is typically people saying, how did you do it?
They want to be like you then.
Yeah. So there'll always be that phase where they're saying, they're giving the snide remarks, and then after that it'll be, how did you do it? And then they'll ask for you for advice.
How do you not hate them by that point?
But what tends to happen is a lot of people, they go into social events and they're in the shape of their life, and they go there expecting amazing comments, and they go there thinking everyone's going to say how good they look, but instead they get slammed by, you look ill.
Yeah.
And it comes very unexpected to people, and it's very difficult to deal with the first time you go through it. And I hear it all the time, but the only thing you could say is, look, you're in the shape of your life.
And I had a conversation. I was somewhere. I was at a party. I was somewhere, and I wasn't eating all the junk food that was there, the cakes and all this sort of stuff. And someone said to me, "Oh, like, why aren't you eating the cake?" I was like, I just don't want the cake. I'm on this training plan. I'm focused. Da, da, da. And they almost started like shaming me for it when everyone else was eating the cake. And I thought to myself, if I was 24 kgs heavier, like I was a year or so ago, and I was eating a box of my chicken nuggets, it would be so rude, it would be so like shock, horror, if someone came up to me and said, "You're a bit fat, why are you eating a burger? Why are you eating nuggets? You're fat enough already."
Yeah.
Like body shaming, right? Yeah. And we see this on social media. We see this as a major problem with kids these days. Kids, like teenagers killing themselves because of body shaming and body dysphoria. Dysmorphia. All this sorts of horrible stuff. But when someone's skinny or slim or has lost lots of weight healthily and for the right reasons, I'm finding people body shame you. Maybe not in as much. Maybe they don't know they're doing that, but that's what I think it is. It's such a lack of education. How do we educate people? Because my tolerance right now is so low. I said to someone, I was at a family function. It was somebody had passed away, and it was like the prayers bit, and I went along, and obviously these people hadn't seen me for like 2 years. Me and my whole doing my thing. And they looked at me, and the first thing was, "Yeah, you're sick. Oh my God, your mum's not feeding you. Like, you should come to my house. Come and live with me." I was like, I'm okay where I live, thank you, but my mum can cook. If I go and have food at my mum's or my sister's or whatever, they feed me. They don't say, "No, go and sit in the corner, you're not allowed to eat." But the shock value when they see someone who's lost weight, who's in shape, but not to their satisfaction or to their approval is shocking. And I actually said to the guy, I said, "Well, I haven't got diabetes like you."
Oh, wow.
and I put him in his place. It put him in his place. And he was like, "Oh, no, I didn't mean it like that. It was a joke." I said, "Well, it's not funny. Because actually, I did have high cholesterol. I was on very much that route to type 2 diabetes, the very typical journey that we know so many people, especially in the Asian community, go through. And it really put him in his place. And luckily, we were able to have a conversation about it afterwards. And I said, you cannot say that to people just because...
Yeah, it's simply a lack of education. The worst two I've been told are, you look like an anorexic swimmer, and you look like an AIDS patient. Those are the two I got.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look like an AIDS patient.
During my bodybuilding prep, those are the two I got. But it got to the point where it just stopped affecting me, because I was just like, I'm doing my thing here, and I'm on the best shape of my life, and I'm doing something that's really positive for myself. Yeah. So I don't really care what people think. But initially, it can throw you. Yeah. So you will care.
But that's what I was thinking.
So you've got to just stay tunnel vision, blinders up on what your goal is.
Yeah. I think it all comes back.
There's nothing really you can do besides just focus on the end goal rather than getting bogged down by other people.
But it does happen.
Because that will come. So as long as if you go there with the expectation it's going to happen, then that can help.
Yeah.
But beyond that, it's just the strategy of just focusing on yourself and continuing to do so.
Okay, great. And I think it all does come back down to knowing your why, knowing your end goal, and just not caring what people think. But it's easy to say.
Has your why shifted?
Yeah, 100%. My why started, like I said, it's phasic. It changed so much. Someone said to me, "You're only doing this to get a revenge body."
Ooh.
Like early on. And and it was actually a girl that said, she goes, "Oh, are you just training like a crazy guy just like to get into like #revenge body?" I was like, "What the hell does that even mean?"
I didn't know that was a thing.
It's a thing. And the thing is, for those of you who don't know, is so that one day, and this is how it was explained to me, that one day you see your ex across the street, walking across the street, and he or she sees you and looks at you like, "Whoa, they look good," and you're like, "You ain't getting none of this now," right? And that's revenge body.
Well, people can say whatever they want.
Right, no, people will, but it's a thing, and I was like, and I was delicate, man. Like I was in a vulnerable place. shit, is that why I'm doing this? And I questioned myself.
When was this again?
Really early on.
Really early on. Okay.
I lost weight rapidly. I had so much to lose. I lost it so quickly. It was between when we started working together in August, October time, up until before Christmas. Somebody was like, damn, are you getting into Christmas revenge body? So you see her walking across the street, she looks at you and she's like, I regret everything because you've got muscles now. Like, come on, right? But so my why, answer your question, my why has changed from being very much the physical transformation because of what my blood test showed to what my counsellor told me to focus on something to almost save yourself kind of thing, and to give yourself some direction, give yourself some purpose in life. To now, I was speaking to somebody before actually about how my training now is more about lifestyle, more about re-education, inspiring other people. And that's why I'm doing the photo shoot. Yeah, it's a bit of a vanity thing as well, and we'll make a very fun video and a fun case study blog out of it. Watch out for it, guys. It's going to be published in the next couple of months. But the reason for it, if someone asked me the other day, okay, great, you're in shape now. Why do you need to go and do a photo shoot about it? Are you doing it to show other people? Are you doing it for others? Do it for yourself. So I'm getting those sorts of things again. But I know why I'm doing it, and it's to show people or to inspire people that I went from a very bad place. I got through it, and I came out the other end in a better place than I was before, a better person for it, and with all this life experience, all these lessons I've learned along the way. And because I know there are people out there who claim to have this glamorous lifestyle online, but they're struggling and they're suffering. And they are themselves going through their own sort of shit, right? So yeah, my why has changed, and it keeps changing all the time.
And you said there was a point where you felt like you'd come off the rock bottom, and the flip had switched. There's probably some people in the room who've got similar whys to you and have been through some traumatic experiences with a breakup like that. At what point did you feel like the physical transformation had really helped you come off the bottom? And you saw like there was a way up?
It's hard to pinpoint like a moment for me without really going back and doing some reflecting and thinking about it. But there definitely was a point where I started feeling like I'm doing things for me again. And I wasn't doing it for someone else or because someone else told me to do it. I wasn't carrying on with this program of health and fitness because my counsellor thought it would be good for me to focus on myself, or because my blood test said I've got whatever in my blood. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, well I don't need to do it for that anymore. I'm doing it purely for myself because I love doing it and I love the feeling that it gives me, the byproduct of the confidence, that self-esteem coming back, not being anxious about what people think, what people say about you, or what's happened in your life. But for me personally, I don't think it was one tipping point. It was more of a gradual curve for me. But you're absolutely right. I've spoken to people in this room. I'm not going to look this way because I'm going to end up looking at them straight. But who are going through that same journey, and they're struggling, and not just in a breakup scenario, but in other illnesses, other life stuff that goes on with their family and with their friends. And there's people who are not here as well who have messaged saying, I wish I could be there because I just sometimes need to hear it from someone who's been to that place before. Do you think, as a sort of question, do you think you have to hit rock bottom to see a certain level of success? Because we see it a lot in business. I was homeless, living in my car, eating beans from a 3-year-old tin of beans, and now I'm a millionaire, look how successful I am. And you see that story over and over again of rock bottom, and then they made it. Is there any parallels?
I don't personally see, I have never hit that rock bottom point that you're mentioning there, so I can't relate to that. But I don't see that as being a driver in business at all. I don't think you need to hit rock bottom in order to grow a business in any sense. I think you've just got to have that relentless drive, and I think that comes from within rather than needing a rock bottom moment to cause that. I don't agree there. But what I would want to talk about is, because I think it would help a lot of people here, is the mental health and the loneliness you feel as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned that this is something you want to try and inspire other people here, and it's one of the reasons why you created this event.
Sure.
Can you talk more about this? And I reached out to you before about this as well, and I said, like, is this how it's meant to feel on this journey? Like, is it a lonely journey, and is it, the glamorized Instagram isn't what running a business is all about. It's so much worse than that.
Sure.
Can you expand on that?
No one shows the operational side of running a business. Everyone shows the end result that we all want to achieve. But it's a lonely journey for very similar reasons to what I said about this whole tall poppy syndrome. People want to, the first day, almost they fake support you, or they say, yeah, sure, you can do it. It's almost condescending, but it's new for you, so you feel like you've chosen the right path, and this is the right thing for you, whether you quit your job to start a business or you start something part-time. You then get a little bit of momentum, you gather some pace, you make a bit of money, you start getting complacent, and I can relate to that because my friendship group at the time were, for want of a better phrase, and with all the respect in the world, they were 9-to-5ers. They were never going to leave their job to start a business, and I was almost the anomaly in my social group with the boys from uni and from school. I went to university with the guys I grew up with at school, and I lived with them, and it was a bad idea because I'd never really made any new friends. But we came out of uni, and I quit my job in law and went down that whole route and started my business, and almost not by any, not because I wanted to, but I alienated myself from them. Or maybe they alienated themselves from me because I was now different, doing different things, spending time with different types of people, talking a little bit weird about business-related stuff and mindset and all this, and found myself very much like, oh my God, no one understands this journey. No one understands the pressure of running your own business anymore, even though it's just me, one-man band, freelancer kind of thing. There's no outlet, there's no water cooler to go and have a moan about your co-workers. Because if you hate your co-worker, you are your co-worker. You hate yourself. If you hate your boss, you hate yourself because you are your boss. So you find yourself in this constant, almost like a vicious cycle of doubting whether it's the right decision, where do I go to for help, that no one understands what I'm doing, no one gets me. So that's what I mean by it being a lonely journey. And the reason for this type of event is to try and bring people together and create this community. I think as human beings, we all need a sense of belonging, sense of community in any area of our lives, in business, in our relationships, our friendships. And when we have that, everything else seems a little bit less shit, a little bit more okay. And that's something I've talked about a lot as well, and I've written about on various blogs and guest blogs, is don't try and do it yourself, even though there are going to be people doubting you, there are going to be people who don't get it. Just share, whether they want to hear it or not, just tell them what you're doing, share your journey with people, tweet about it, Instagram it. You're going to get people not liking it, not following you, not engaging with you. But actually, there are going to be people there who can relate to your journey. And that's another reason I want you to open up with all of this stuff as well. I've never spoken about any of this openly like this. But it's important for people to know that my life also isn't all rosy, and it's not all great, and it's not all what you see on Instagram. There is a different side of things. And just as much as it's a lonely journey in entrepreneurship and growing a business, the solution to that is everything you've talked about with the training. Surround yourself, as well as surrounding yourself around other like-minded, positive people who will get it and who are going through the same sort of journey or similar journey outside of here. whether in their training or whether in their business, whatever it is. So I'm a big believer in at any cost surround yourself around people. Don't try and do it by yourself. If you have to pay someone to be around you in the form of a coach, not like pay me and I'll be your friend, but pay a coach, have a business coach, have a mentor, have someone who's been there and done it. And if you have to give them some money to make it more valuable for yourself, then so be it, because that is what made all the difference for me in business. I have business coaches. That's what made the difference for me in my training, obviously, with you. But yeah, is that kind of what you were asking?
Yeah. Who here can relate to that?
This affects all areas of your life, your relationships with your kids, relationship with your wife, your husband, your boyfriend, partner, whatnot, your parents. It affects everything, and it's goes right back to the very first. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah.
The very first thing that we talked about, which was this is not just a physical.
No.
This affects every fiber of your being, every relationship, every person you touch in your life going forward. You are a different person for them. You're arguably a better person for them. That you can because you're a better person for yourself. You can then be a better person for your kids, for your partner, and so on.
Because if you're physically in shape, everything's going to be right. Everything's going to be much more enhanced. Because essentially, to get into shape, you have to have worked on yourself, both physically and mentally, in order to get there. Because your body is typically a representation of your mind. And if you're not in a good place in your mind, it's probably going to reflect in your body.
Yeah.
And you have to work on both in order to get there. And if you go down a physical transformation, it's going to enable you to create a higher level of self-awareness in order to find all the tweaks that you need to do in your mind and work on them at the same time. It's very much a dual pathway, not necessarily one or the other, and they're completely connected.
Yeah, you can't help but develop mentally and transform mentally as well at the same time. Yeah, right. It's not one or the other.
It goes both ways. The physical will help the mental, but the mental is also the physical is also a representation of the mental.
Like for me, it wasn't right. What are my values? Who do I want to be? Who's this? What's the end result for me? Who do I want to become for myself and for other people around me? It was that all came as a byproduct. I learned that along the way. Like I'm not claiming to be that wise that I sat down and I thought, right, I need to figure out my why or my value. All of that has come actually as a process, as a byproduct of almost, dare I say, forcing myself down this route because my counselor told me to. And if she hadn't told me to, then God knows what. But yeah, you're right. That's where you have to end up being, and everyone goes through that journey in one way or the other, right? Yeah.
And probably before contemplating on too many of those different things that you've just mentioned, sometimes just taking the first step is all you need to do. And like Suraj, he didn't get it at the beginning. It came along the way. His first step was just to get in the gym and sort his diet out. That enabled him to then have those discussions with himself, which led to further introspection. Because what I see with people is they come for that aesthetic and they start with their training, their diet, and then what they'll realize is a couple of weeks in is it was never about that, and they start spending so much time with themselves in a good way that they start becoming more introspective and more self-aware, and they start uncovering all the emotions and the pain points that they're trying to deal with. And that's when the growth happens.
But that system that you talk about, Meju, is it's so simple. I think as human beings, especially all of us really clever entrepreneurs, because we're all so clever, right? We try to overcomplicate things to prove to ourselves, oh, look how clever, look how clever I am compared to the next guy along, right? And maybe it's a way of inflating our own ego or our own self-worth, but actually, even in business, some of the best businesses known to man are the simplest ones, right? And I think that's what worked for me personally, is drawing on that is how simple the system was.
Yeah.
And I was maybe trying to overcomplicate it, even to this day, even overcomplicate some things in my business. But when I just simplify it,
strip it down to basics.
Completely down to basics. Yeah. It's like, no, I strip my business down to, eggs and salmon in the context of my breakfast. It's straightforward, it's simple, there's no fluff, there's no complications.
It comes back to the whole shiny object syndrome in business.
Go back to basics. But I get that. So how many other R&D members here get that a lot? That, oh my God, like you must have some next level scientific nutritional programs. Like, no, I eat 3 eggs and a bit of salmon and some broccoli and some chicken. Like, there's no magic formula.
I just want to touch on what you said about you look at other business owners and you see that they really need to get their shit together with their body. And I gave a talk at a business seminar recently, and I said for a lot of people in this room, the trick that you're after probably isn't a marketing trick or a strategy trick. It's probably that you need to sort yourself out and you just get your health in order to allow yourself the freedom to grow your business. And I think it's so spot on what you said there, in that so many entrepreneurs neglect their health and their body composition in search of wealth.
Time as an excuse.
Yeah, and the amazing thing about when you go on a body transformation journey is you have to do so much in the day. Like, you've got your steps to do, you've got your meal prep to do, your training, and you've got to find a way to do it. Now, when you're pushing hard towards that checkpoint that I mentioned earlier, it takes up a lot of time in your day. And if you're not organized, you're not going to be able to get it done. You're going to have to get really organized, really structured in your day. Now, when you shift to maintenance, where the training reduces, the food comes a little bit higher, the steps might go down a bit, now you've suddenly unlocked a couple of hours in your day. Now you can use that unlocked hours in the day to grow your business. And that's where a lot of business owners see a tremendous amount of benefits. And when I competed in bodybuilding, I experienced the same thing, because I was at that point where I was spending like 3-4 hours a day on various meal prep, posing, practice, all this sort of stuff you have to do for bodybuilding. And then I was in the startup phase of the business as well. And as soon as the bodybuilding prep finished, I suddenly had like 3-4 hours extra time in the day. And what did I do with it? I just poured it into the business and things took off. So I think that's a massive benefit that anyone can really take away, not just business owners, but anyone looking to be a high performer. It can really benefit their lives in that way from a time management and a structure point of view.
That's key. This is not just for entrepreneur. I know it's called Entrepreneur Jam. But no, this is for anyone, for people who want to apply these lessons in their relationship, in their 9-to-5 job. I never say, oh, this is only for people who run their own business. No, because anyone can learn from the content that we share here. I want to ask something that is, again, just a little bit jumping all over the place, but I asked this to Lord Billamoria in January when I was interviewing him at this event. I said, you were he was destined to be this highly qualified lawyer. He worked at Ernst & Young in the city, like full-on corporate bod, and decided to sack that all in to sell beer.
Yeah.
And then we know what happened. Cobra Beer happened. He's Lord Billamoria now, right? Fine. I can relate to this 100%. You're there, late teens, early 20s, going to university to study law.
No, I didn't study law. I stopped it before that.
But you were on your way. You're en route to study law at university, and this whole prestigious career in the law. Everyone would be really proud of you. Blah blah blah. Yeah. And then you became, with respect, a personal trainer.
Yeah.
Helping people do some press ups or something. How did you deal with any challenges or any backlash from the family or from people around you? They're like, what are you doing? Yeah. Like, how are you going to earn any money from that?
I mean, that's the first question I got. It was my mum and dad said to me, how are you going to pay the bills?
Parents.
Yeah, it took a lot of education from them, and I had to take them to the university and show them that it was a science degree and that I wasn't just learning how to do star jumps in the field, which is what they assumed that it was all about. But once I got over that and showed them that it was a real science degree and I had a plan or some sort of plan to make something of myself, then it was a lot easier. But I did definitely have that backlash at the beginning, yeah.
Were they disappointed in you to start off with?
I'd say so initially. Initially, there was that level of disappointment. But I think with the education, it was okay.
Yeah. Because 5 years into me sacking off my job, my 9-to-5, and, doing stuff on the internet, as most people called it, I still had family members. My own sister asked me 5 years in, still, Suraj, when are you getting a real job? And I'm like, I earn more than you do, and I travel more than anyone that we know. Like, I'm living the dream, as it were, right? It's fascinating, like how that journey, again, it's just such a parallel to what I've experienced in my body transformation now in the last 18 months of, that bit of support. Then it's like, okay, when are you going to start eating burgers and chips and pizza again, man? Like, where did the old Suraj go? Like, I don't need to eat.
And now the same corporate people are asking how to quit their job.
And on that note, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's the ultimate irony, right? That you and I are now both going into businesses and corporates and other organizations to talk about this, to help them get out as well. But actually, it was that group of people that at one stage were trying to, certainly for me anyway, trying to keep me in. Has this been helpful? For those of you who've been here regularly, I know there's a lot of first timers here as well. You see how different the feel and the energy is to this meetup compared to other meetups. I was desperately nervous and a little bit anxious about this particular meetup, just because it's well out of my comfort zone. We can talk about business and marketing and automation and systems all day long, and I'm there. But talking about this sort of stuff that is real life, that does affect all of the business and the work and all of that, was really daunting for me. So thank you all for making it a little bit easier for myself. It's been really difficult to talk about this for the first time in a couple of years. And thank you to Akash as well. How can people find out more about you who don't already follow you online? Where can they see more pictures like this and just learn more and be more educated about the kind of work that you do and the impact that you're making? Because I think what you're onto right now is a real movement. There's so much momentum in all of us sharing content. There's such a buzzing community that you've put together. I think all of us want to share this information with more people. So for those of the people who don't already know about you, are not into the R&T system, where can they find out more?
Sure. So, for the education, we have our website, our blog, which has over 250 pieces of content on there. That's www.rntfitness.com. We also have a podcast, which is growing every month. And that's called RNT Fitness Radio, which you can find on all podcast platforms. And then on social media, it's at RNT_fitness or at Akash Vaghela is my name. So, and on our website, if you want to kind of trial things out, we have a 25-day plan. But otherwise, those are the best ways to find more about everything you need to know about body transformation.
Amazing. Look, thank you so much, Akash. I really appreciate it. I think our relationship has changed so much over the last 18 months. Yes, I'm still a customer of yours and of R&T. I'm not a client or whatever you want to call it. But I regard you as a friend of mine, and we've been on holiday together. We've hung out together, and I think that is. I've got nothing but gratitude to you, to the work that you're doing, not just with me, but with other people as well, because it allows me to see how I can improve myself as well through the work you do with other people. And for some reason, we're all finding ourselves in the same sort of boat. We're all attracting each other and we're all helping each other grow. So thank you for doing what you do. Thank you all for being here this evening.
Thank you so much for being here today on this episode of RNT Fitness Radio. I'd love for you to do a quick little favor for us. Please head over to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating, leave a comment, and share it with your family and friends. If you're interested in learning more about how to transform your body and positively change your life, go to www.rntfitness.com and explore all our free content on offer. Thank you.